the man that descended to godhood, a god who embodies courage and justice, Heracles. And yes, he's Greek, not Roman, so it ain't Hercules before anyone comments on my pronunciation. He fought for what was right no matter the cost to his body. He risked his life to challenge the injustice of the gods, and in the end he saved the most despicable of men because his love for humanity was just that great. Heracles was a hero to both humans and gods, and so of course that is what we shall explore today. So if you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing that bell. Anyway, on with the video. Heracles' introduction comes right before his own fight in round 4. After admitting to the strength of humanity, Zeus sends out his adopted son to avenge Poseidon. As Brunhild says, after facing their first loss, round 4 would become a must-win for the gods. In order to prove round 3 was just a fluke, they needed to crush the newfound hope of the humans. The introduction of Heracles is great, and like most of the series' character introductions, perfectly sums up the character in question. Before we even see him, we feel his pressure. The first indication of his presence is a declaration, and then a gust of pressure that overwhelms Gaul. This gets across a few points. Firstly, his power, being able to exert pressure even out of sight, and more importantly, it shows that this man can have an effect on people even when not in sight. In other words, his effect on people, the impression he leaves, is not one that disappears just because he has not stood right in front of you. And I think you'll get more of what I mean by this as we continue on with the video. This introduction also does a nice bit of a reversal, a menacing presence followed by a menacing silhouette, and then capped off with what appears to be even the cowardly and peaceful Gaul going on the offensive. All of these of course being purposely framed to trick us, as instead of going in for a punch, Gaul instead goes in for a friendly arm barge. And with this we learn everything we need to know about Heracles, his strength, his effect on others, and that despite his menacing power and appearance, he is a big old softy at heart. Another thing easily missed in his introduction is that he asks if Brunhild has gotten any stronger. Now this could be some subtle foreshadowing for Brunhild being a bit of a beast in her own right, but for the sake of this discussion, helps to show us Heracles' fascination with strength, or more accurately, of people gaining strength and becoming stronger to pursue their own ideals. His following conversation with Loki helps to explore the most important part of his character yet unseen, his inner contradiction. As he says to Loki, he is always on the side of the righteous, he always supports justice. However, despite this, he is unable to exercise justice outside of the rules, hence why he is fighting as a god, even though as he says, he is against humanity being wiped out. His opinion is opposite to the rest of the gods, yet he is not one who would rebel against this notion. He would instead rather fight for the gods and then after serving his duty, making his case for why they should be saved. Now many people call Heracles a dumbass for this. Why fight to end humanity if you want to save them? And to an extent that's correct. But not because Heracles is stupid, but because he is so devoted to his own ideals. Ideals that in an ideal world work, but in one as biased and immoral as that orchestrated by the gods, has no chance of success. In terms of Ragnarok itself, it's not a solution to the problem of humanity's continued existence that conforms with his own view of justice. He may not want humanity to be wiped out, but that doesn't mean he is siding with the humans against the gods. He is as much a god as he is a human, and so he wishes for justice for both sides. Unlike a certain other god, he isn't fully siding with the humans. He wishes to be an envoy of justice, separate from the title of god or mortal. And so although we can, as outsiders, question his choices and decisions, we must understand why he made these naive choices. Because Heracles believes in a very idyllic and naive view of justice and evil, and so wishes to use his own power and his own position to drive forward this view of justice. It's a great strength of Heracles, one that allows him to always remain confident and to inspire others, but it's also an easy weakness to exploit. Hence why Brunhild picked his opponent, a man who would exploit both the naivety and the sincerity of Heracles, Jack the Ripper. Now just to clarify, I'm not going to be discussing anything from Jack's spin-off manga in this video, since none of that was probably even thought up yet when round 4 was written, so I'm going to be treating Jack as the true Jack the Ripper, not the serial killer who works for a secret agency and gets off on evil people dying while simultaneously buying dirty newspapers off a poor girl to get in his good deed of the day. Now at the start of the match we see Heracles enraged. He expected to fight a warrior like Lubu, Adam or Sasaki, true warriors worthy of fighting for humankind and capable of moving the hearts of the gods. But he instead faced off against Jack. His anger at this is a result of his own view of justice and morality being insulted. To him those three were good and Jack is bad, simple as that. Still Heracles is a good man and so asked Jack to surrender, and in return he would implore Zeus to spare him. He is disgusted after all by senseless murder. another reason why he is against Ragnarok. He does not wish to stoop to the method of murder to achieve justice because that goes against justice itself. Yet of course Jack doesn't accept this and the fight begins properly. And well, this fight in a nutshell is Heracles' view of a fair and noble fight, being again and again challenged and spat on. Jack acts almost like the idea of realism, of the dirty truth of the world, staining Heracles' idyllic worldview. He ran away instead of facing Heracles like a warrior. He refused to draw his weapon when asked. He sets traps and schemes. He lied about his Volond. Jack refused to conform to Heracles' way of fighting. He challenged it at every step. Yet what did Heracles do in return? Did he try to force Jack to fight fairly? No. He instead took everything, tricks and schemes included, head on. Because justice is unwavering, it doesn't fold to underhanded tactics. His stubbornness in the face of an enemy who has no intention of playing fair is the ultimate showing of his steadfast image of justice. As he says, he will crush all of Jack's evil intent, as that is his justice. And well, he honours his words, advancing even when under a constant assault, because as explained by Ares, it is his will that is Heracles' greatest strength. As we learn in his backstory, he was born immortal, an incredibly weak one at that, but despite possessing such a frail body, he still threw himself into danger if it meant protecting the weak from those he deemed in the wrong. He always wanted to be on the side of justice, and so weak body be damned, he would do what he thought was right. However, during his training to become stronger, to have a body able to exercise justice, the gods convened and held the conference for humanity's survival. Now luckily the gods here voted in favour of the humans surviving, possibly because this was still a time when the humans revered the gods, but that's a topic for another day. But still, Zeus wanted to see something done anyway, and so they decided to punish the people of Thebes for hunting too many animals, which is very ironic since every time the people of Thebes killed an animal to eat, they thanked Zeus for providing the meal. So basically what the gods were angry about was the very thing the humans thought the gods were gifting them. A great example of how disconnected the gods truly are from the feelings of humanity. Oh, and Loki says the iconic and benevolent line, "Let's go killing." Yet another example of how the gods don't really have any good reasons to wipe out humanity and just want to do it to prove they are better than them and to have a bit of fun. And so Ares and his legion descended on Thebes to dish out divine punishment to, in Ares' own words, deliver the justice of the gods. As the other humans prayed for forgiveness, Heracles, at the time known as Alcides, stood in front of Ares and declared, "He shall not pass." He challenged the gods' notion of justice. As he explains, a god assigning sin is the same as them sparing a life, it's all done on a whim. Humans are weak, and as such, even if they strive for good, they must sometimes turn towards evil. Unlike the gods who have the power to live with clean hands, humans cannot do that. In order to grow, they have to waver and come back stronger. Justice, in Alcides' opinion, lies within the hearts of all humans, and that it is derived from our weakness. As a former weakling who grew strong, Alcides understood that justice comes from weakness. It is putting yourself in the shoes of the weak to stand up for what you think is right. And I see these thought crushing weak humans who were only trying to get by and now are begging for their lives was nothing even close to just. However, as one who was weak, Alcides understood the fact that one must endeavour to become strong enough to exercise justice, and that's why he spent his whole life training so he could better impact the world in the way he thought was right. Sadly, however, the inherent divinity of the gods was not something even Alcides and his life of training could meet, so he made a wager. He wagered his life to challenge the gods, and drank the ambrosia. With the strength of Zeus, he fought those he saw as evil and protected his home. And after defeating the vanguard of the gods, he was offered the position of a god. In exchange, he made Zeus promise to never harm the humans again, and in return, Heracles ascended to godhood with the job of leading the humans to righteousness. Oh wait, sorry, a slip of the tongue. He, by his own words, descended. Heracles after all saw the whims of the gods as unjust, and so sought to use his new power to change it. Now you can make a good argument that he failed in this mission, but the point is he did what he felt was right and so followed his own justice. And even after thousands of years, this vision never wavered, because as we return to the match, he echoes his stand against the unjust gods by staring down an unjust human and declaring that he will crush evil head on. His godly techniques, Herculean Exodus, is one that grants him great power in exchange for his very life. A great metaphor for his general approach to combat, since he fights head on no matter what the opponent pulls, risking his life in the same way he gives it up to obtain this power. It's also just in general a very sacrificial power, fitting to the hero who would put his life on the line to fight danger, and the man who wagered his life by drinking the ambrosia in exchange for strength to pursue justice. Remember, the one thing Heracles fears is the day he parts with justice, and so to ensure he still can fight for justice, no sacrifice is too great. And well, when Jack looks upon Heracles, he sees no fear at all. Now, speaking of Jack's emotion side, when Heracles finds out about it and then subsequently Jack's motive for doing so, his whole demeanour changes. Being up in the heavens for so long very well may have made Heracles forget, but now he remembered that no human is inherently evil. Be it from his poverty or his mother's betrayal, Jack lost to despair. He wasn't an evil monster, he was just a human that lost their way, falling into darkness and not being able to climb back up. To go back to Heracles' words to Ares, humans are weak, they strive for good but sometimes must do evil, and for Jack the evil he did was enough to stain him for the rest of his life. Jack was weak, too weak to climb out of the darkness, and that is why Heracles' emotions changed from courage and anger to nothing but pure love. As he says, humanity is foolish, jealous, hateful, discriminatory, and all manner of dirty, ugly and evil things. But even so, he loves humanity, and now having come to realise that Jack is just as human as any other, that he may be evil, but that he was once the same as all other humans, just striving to be good and happy, the demigod Heracles comes to a decision that he will save Jack from his suffering. Exuding the same colour of love Jack's mother once had, Heracles became the first person to ever direct pure love towards Jack. Calling upon his most destructive ability, Heracles risked his life like never before, not to crush evil, but to save Jack. But Jack in turn dropped a building on him, leading to both Ares and Castor, his best friends from both his god and human sides, crying out for their friend and hero to win, showing that Heracles' justice captures the hearts and wills of both gods and mortals, with him symbolically crawling out of the rubble as if from the underworld, as even death can't stop his justice. A hero, remember, never gives out and keeps getting back up. That's what it means to be the god of fortitude. And even after all that, he was still painted in the colours of love, something that made Jack want to kill him even more. And so for the first time in the match, Jack enters close combat, because much like Heracles' justice, this is something he cannot back down from, something which earns him praise from Heracles. Jack, in his final effort, risked his life for victory in the same way Heracles had done back in Thebes, and then again by using the power of Cerberus. And the reason was simple, because what Jack wanted most was to be truly loved, and the only way to prove that Heracles truly did love him, that somebody did, he had to kill Heracles, and if even in his last moment that colour of love did not fade, then it would settle the matter. Jack was loved, but tragically to find the one person who truly loved him, he had to first kill them, and that is what he does, impaling Heracles with the literal blood on his hands. A very clear metaphor for all the actions that had led him up to this point. Jack admits to his loss, and Heracles simply states that he will never change, and that even if they are the most evil and wretched of people, he will always love humans. And using his last strength, he hugged Jack, because more so than fortitude and courage, what Heracles was truly the god of was love. Which is why even as he dies, his heart remains painted in love, and his last words are to Brunhild, telling her to please save them, do what he couldn't. And in a way, isn't that what she was already doing? He saved the humans from the gods until the next conference for humanity's survival, but now that their destruction was on the cards again, it was Brunhild's turn to protect them, hence Ragnarok itself. Heracles went out as a hero. He couldn't save all of humanity, but he could save the one human stood before him. He protected the weak, he saved them. And Jack was the weakest of them all, as though had to be embraced and showed true love by the god that looked past his bloodstained hands and saw the lonely and hurt child that was the source of all this pain. You are right to question Heracles' decision making, as yes, it was very naive, but that naivety is also Heracles' greatest strength, and without it he would not have descended to godhood, nor fought to save the one human who nobody else could come to love. Heracles is without a doubt, to both humans and gods, a hero.
And if you want to support this channel even further, then perhaps pledge to my Patreon, or consider becoming a channel member, so you can get your name at the end of the video, like Hikari Desu, Rinjak9696, Mr. Sputum, and Matthias Rowett. So with all that said and done, I have been Seth the Sin, the Deadly Sin of Geek, and I am signing out. Stay safe, everyone.